This video explains the basics of test-driven development, or TDD for short. You might have heard about it as it's becoming more and more popular. Test-driven development is more than just unit testing your software. It's a philosophy in which you start software development by writing unit tests that fail. But first things first. Suppose we've got the following business requirements for a new piece of software. Rate users' activity level, except the weekly time in minutes spent doing cardio and the number of workout sessions. Throw an exception when the input is below 0. One workout equals 45 minutes. Now calculate the weekly total, divide by 7 to find the daily average. If it's below 20, return bad. If it's between 20 and 40, return average. Otherwise, return good. So let's create a new Java class, which will be named Activity Calculator. It will have a single public static method named rateActivityLevel, which will for now return an empty string, but will accept two input parameters, weekly cardio minutes and weekly workout sessions. Normally, you would start development by writing the actual function according to the requirements. In test-driven development, however, you start by writing unit tests that will fail. Let's start by creating a class named ActivityCalculatorTest. Now, based on the requirements, we will create some test methods. Let me just copy-paste them, but remember you can pause the video to put them into your IDE as well. These are the 4 test methods. These unit tests represent the business requirements. We need to make sure that all of them are satisfied. There are 3 unit tests that will test for certain input parameter values and return bad, average, or good, respectively. And there is one which will test if an exception is thrown. Let's focus on the first one. We'll have to write the actual unit test as if our activity calculator was already implemented. We know that we should get bad as a result when the average is below 20. So let me just copy-paste the test and see what it contains. There are 2 input parameters, weekly cardio mins and weekly workouts. Then we call the rateActivityLevel method, and we expect to get bad as a result. The test is ready, but the actual method is not implemented yet. So we are expecting to get a failure when we run the actual test method. Let's see how that goes. As you can see, there is a failure because the method that we test hasn't been implemented yet. By the same token, we can write the other 3 unit tests. Here, I will just copy-paste all of them, and you can pause the video and type them yourself. As you can see, the one below 20 is the same. Now, if we look at the next one, the input parameters are different, and the expected value is also different. Same goes for the third test, where we change the input parameters and we change the value that we expect. And the fourth test is a bit different because it expects an executable which will throw a runtime exception. Now let's run the whole test class. And as you can see, all 4 tests failed. That's the end of step 1 in test-driven development. Now, our task is to make these tests pass by providing the actual implementation. So let's try that. We'll go to the Activity Calculator class and we'll try to make the first unit test pass. Let me copy-paste the code and see what it contains. There is a private static final integer which equals 45 minutes for workout duration, and now we calculate the total minutes as the number of cardio minutes plus the number of workout sessions times the 45 minutes. There is also an average daily, which we obtain by dividing the total minutes by 7. And then if the average daily is below 20, we return bad. Otherwise, we return nothing or an empty string. If we now run the test, you should see that one of them actually passed. And that's true, we only got 3 failures. Great, now we should work on the other tests to make them pass too. Again, I'll just copy paste the end code and you can pause the video to write it yourself. So this is the final code. We can see that first of all an exception is thrown if any of the input parameters are negative. Then we calculate the total minutes and the average daily as before, but look at the if there is an else statement and there is an else if statement as well. Our function can now return bad, average or good, just as expected. If we now run the test suite, we should expect all tests to pass. And that's it, all of them passed. We have finished the development and we have finished unit testing at the same time. So, these were the basics of test-driven development. The idea behind it is to increase code quality because you need to think about unit tests up front. It's actually a common case in the real world when you work in software development that a feature needs to be delivered very quickly and we, developers, forget about unit tests or we are simply forced to deploy a new feature without unit tests because someone is really waiting for the code ASAP. In the TDD approach, that's never the case because you start with unit tests and as soon as you finish the feature, the tests are already there. TDD is a modern and agile approach, so I suggest